So we've got the VK up on jack stands to pull this power steering out. So now we're going to get into and pull off the tie rod ends. We'll just remove this split pin, undo this castle nut, and then give it a bit of a whack whack. She'll drop out. Now I think there's just 2 bolts that hold it up here, and then just the shaft that connects it, which is already loosened off. Just going to go through now and undo the retaining bolts for the power steering rack, which is one here, then one on the other side. Take the intermediate shaft out and then undo the return line as well, and see how much the extractor's fight us here. I'll get back to you. Got the power steering rack out. Leak from that seal there. We'll take it out of the shed now, hit it with some degreaser, and give it a quick spray of the pressure washer. Just removing the boots from the power steering rack. Then we're going to go through and take some measurements and record them down of the rack end lengths, just so when we put this back together it gets as close as possible where it was, and then hopefully there's not much adjustment needed when we do the wheel alignment later on. Now I've taken my measurements on my rack end lengths, I can go through and remove these. I'm just going to use 2 sets of Stilsons. These do have a lock nut and a lock pin that should be removed, but I'm just going to wind it off with the Stilsons because I'm going to replace the pin later and the rack end, and I'll have to just clean a hole and re-drill it. continuing with stripping this power steering rack, I'm just going to remove these oil lines now, undoing them from the valve body housing to the power steering rack cylinder housing, taking care not to damage these as they are a bit fragile because they are old, and obviously these fittings do get very tight and it's easy to round them off. So just using the correct spanners for this. Once I get all these off, I'm just going to remove the valve body itself and then go through and start cleaning some of this up. So we've got half of it apart here. Got the input shaft out. A lot of grime that comes through here because when it had an old boot on it, obviously nothing stops it, so it all goes through and comes through into the gearing, to the mesh part of the rack and the pinion. Yeah, a lot of crap in there. We have to replace this bearing here, and I think there's a needle roller up in here near this seal, so I might have to replace that one as well, maybe, but definitely that one. I haven't got the rebuild kit yet, but I'm pretty sure that's just seals and O-rings. Because pretty much to get this out, I need to take these off. These stopping, these are just your, the set your length, and they're your stoppers, so it goes hard up each way. But because what they have, so it got to the stage where I need to undo the retaining nut in here for the rack to come out and the piston. In there. So all I done to get that off is I got the old ball joint removal tool, ground him down on the edges, cleaned up the edge. I could just get it in there and undo it. Cut some slits in here to put the shifter on. Took a little bit, but it came out. So now we can push this rack out and the piston will be in there, and there's seals to replace on that. Got the rack out of the power steering housing. I've gone through and pulled the seal out of here. Pretty much chewed him out to get him out because access was pretty hard to go in there. You can come through this way, but there's not enough of the seal face actually protruding out past the recess to knock it through. So they had to come through this way with a flathead screwdriver, knock the outer edge, and then twist it out. But it's out, so that'll do. Now I'm waiting for the rebuild kit to come, and then I'll go through and see what parts I get. Hopefully is all of it, and then I'll go through and replace all the seals on the piston and in the valve body. Other than that, pretty much prep this. Now I'll go through and prep it for paint, and I'll paint it while I wait, hopefully, for the rebuild kit to come. The rebuild kit has arrived. Haven't painted the outer power steering case yet, but I've got these seals here, which one goes in here, down through here, and then the other one goes down in here. So I'll go through, I'll knock them in, then I'll prep this for paint, mask it off, paint it, to chuck in the time lapse. With the cylinder housing all cleaned down, I'm going to start installing these seals. I'm going to be using some sockets and extensions to knock these in. I had quite a few extensions to reach the centre of the cylinder, but it worked quite well. I did put these seals in the freezer for a little bit just to help them shrink down a little bit as they're an interference fit. Just replacing the bearing on the pinion shaft, then going through installing all the new seals to the piston and valve body, lubing this all up with power steering fluid. You have to be careful with the inner seal when installing the rack back into the cylinder. You don't want to pinch this, as this will create problems when you put it back together and you'll have a leak instantly. So the rack's probably 3/4 back together. It's going to go through, take this off, take the top off, tape here off, tape here and here, and then I will clean it up and we'll paint it. So I got the rack painted, just going to go through now, fit the outlet lines and the rack ends, and then yeah, we should be good to put it into the wagon. It's the rack painted, and just these outlet lines that come out of the valve body. I'll put you on a time lapse. Putting the rack ends back on and setting these to the length of the measurement that we took earlier when we stripped it. The rebuild kit also came with new dowel pins, so tightening the lock nut up to the rack end and then drilling the hole into it and then into the rack itself and then knocking these dowel pins in. The rack's complete, ready to go back in. Just waiting on a fitting for here. That's the high pressure in from the pump. I'm just going to try and put that in before I put the whole thing in, just so it's a bit easier because it's a bit tight down there. I'll see how long that takes to come. I'm not going to wait around 3 weeks to wait for that. Kind of just want to get this in and get the car back on the ground properly. So it goes. The main culprit was this second seal in here. That's just like a dust seal. The second oil seal in here was the main culprit. Because the extractors were there, just wanted to get that out, get that fixed. Because last wrapping the video up here by just putting the power steering rack back into the wagon. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel.